and welcome back to Coach Quip. This is episode 161. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today we're talking about the top 10 reasons to get a coach. So right now, if you're listening to this in regular time and you follow us, which you should, and you should definitely like and subscribe while you're at it. The racing season right now is kind of winding down. There are still a few out there, but athletes are really starting to reflect on their past year, as well as looking forward to what the heck they're going to be doing in the future year. So we're hearing a lot of discussions going down about trying new sports or maybe new distances, reaching for a new goal, or just trying to figure out how the heck to put a week together with everything being busier than ever in the last 4 to 5 years. For me, my big impetus to get a coach now many moons ago was exactly at the same time where I realized I was very much out of my depth. I was exploring a distance that I had never done before. Mm-hmm. I would argue kind of successfully self-coaching, but I knew like, whoa, I actually don't know how to do this. And I don't feel super confident because it was way before coaching certifications. I don't feel confident in putting these pieces together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine was similar. I started a different, focusing on duathlon instead of triathlon. And for triathlon, there's a ton of resources out there, plans you could print off, and you can successfully self-coach to a point. But I wanted to both dive into different discipline, but also level up my results.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, it was I can take myself to a certain level, but I'm not going to push myself the way I would be pushed if I had the accountability of having a coach.
And interestingly, the coaching side of our business is one of the ones that has grown quite a bit during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I would say pre-COVID, a lot of times people would get a coach because they wanted to do something harder or faster, any of those things. Nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But now we actually have a lot of people who are looking to how the heck do I restart, especially if they had an endurance background. I want to what I do again, or how do I just put a week together? Like I said earlier, we get a lot of, that's actually the majority of the discussions that we have with athletes looking for personal coaching.
Yeah, how do I do this smarter? Which I think is really intelligent question to ask when our schedules are really busy and everything is kind of different now.
Yeah,
right?
And even figuring out when to do things is different, right? We were all the way at home and now there's always a hybrid and those hybrid days are changing. Just trying to navigate that. Enter having a coach.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to just cover and came up with the top 10 reasons to get a coach.
All right, well, let's kick it off. Number one is someone else driving the ship. And I think this one is such a good one for folks who maybe overthink. When someone else is in charge, it can take the pressure off of you and you just have to show up and do the work, which is amazing. The reason this is great is that it can really help you focus on just the enjoyment of the process and of the individual sessions instead of having to worry about the big picture.
Yeah, just handing it over.
Yeah.
So take the wheel.
Yeah.
Take the wheel, Coach Chris. Number two is it's a personalized training plan for you. So big picture, a coach will put together what we call an annual training plan. We typically do it in 6-month segments that takes into account, your heavy periods, your A races, if you're traveling, and you're going to see bird's eye view of total and longer efforts. But then on a daily basis, it's recovery runs on Mondays because those work well for you, and making sure that we're taking into account your fitness level, your experience, your goals, maybe any type of injury that you've managed in the past. That level of customization really maximizes your progress, so it's very efficient and minimizes the risk of injury.
Yeah, you could have the same individual sessions on a plan that you print off from the internet and something from a coach doing it personalized for you. The structure of that, where those things go in your week and in your month and in your year, is really what makes the difference in having a program that's tailored for you. And I actually have an athlete now who has all the training blocks that they need. They just need help putting it around their work schedule.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, okay, wait, so I have 2 long days here. Is it appropriate to take a day off, or do I do strength, or do I try to fit a run in here? And that sort of personalization is really, I think, makes coaching pay for itself.
Level up from there. I love it when we can teach them how to fish too.
Yes.
So when it's personalized to you, but if you start to understand what works best and you can answer your own questions, we've done our job, right? And it's easier for us.
Yeah.
But it's really fantastic to know, like I had an athlete that for the first time did doubles during this last marathon season and really realized that they did much better doing their easy run in the PM and their harder run in the AM. And, we tried both, and then they figured out that they should probably flip it, and then the rest of the time they were able to do that quite intentionally because they knew that was what was supposed to be done.
That seems like such a simple idea, but I know that I, as an individual athlete, would be less inclined to experiment with morning or night or easy and hard versus a coach telling me to like, hey, because you're thinking about your results, oh, why didn't this run go well this morning? Or, why didn't I go easy enough at night? Well, maybe you have to flip those things around. And that's just something that when we're in the thick of it, we're not really thinking about.
And I love it when I hear them, like my own athletes, like in a bigger run group giving insights. I'm like, oh yes, that worked.
Yes.
The ripple effect is real.
Yeah, and I think that's right. So for anybody who does have a coach, if you have a coach whose intention is not to coach themselves out of a job, then you might have the wrong type of coach.
I agree.
I think that is my goal, like you said, to give people as much information and understanding and help them learn and grow so that they can be their own best coach. And we know, like, you don't achieve the same sort of results when you self-coach, but that idea of being able to make those pivots on the fly and not always need to reach out to your coach for reassurance or guidance, right? Like, coaches should be giving you the tools as an athlete to make good decisions. So that really is our intention.
Yeah.
Number 3 is accountability, and I think this is another big one that having another person who will hold you accountable to make sure that you are doing the work that you said that you want to do is a big, big deal. So for a lot of the athletes that I'm coaching, I feel like this is one of their biggest ones, is just that accountability. And, coaches aren't going to chase you down to make sure that your Training Peaks goes all green, but just the idea of knowing that an athlete has someone that they're paying so that they have the financial investment.
Yeah, that's a big piece.
And they have the relational investment to know that when we have our meeting, I'm going to ask them, like, hey, what's going on the last week? You really had a wild schedule. Like, it forces the athlete to be more communicative, which is really good, which then provides more insights and self-reflection to their training. So that accountability piece is huge. It just helps to know that somebody's watching, that somebody's going to ask you about it, and also that we can support you through your tough workouts and questions that you have.
Even just this morning, I texted 2 different athletes and was like, I was in Training Peaks building out future programming, and I realized that it's Wednesday and we have a couple of red blips. Again, I'm not going to chase you down, but if I see it and it probably should have gotten done, I'm going to ask you why, or I'm going to be able to adjust it so that I can flip it to a better part of the week that makes it much more likely to get done.
Yeah, that's another point that where self-coached athletes go wrong is if you miss a session, there's often the impetus to push them forward to get them done and stack them on something else, or to skip them completely. And both of those answers in the long term can be not great for an athlete, because we wouldn't step you up if you've missed the last 2 long runs. We're not going to step you up to week 3 long run if you haven't done the other 2 steps. So having a coach can really help provide that sort of grounding and stability, along with that accountability.
Number 4 is injury prevention. You all saw this one coming. So we help you, of course, improve your fitness, craft your skill, make sure that workouts are appropriate, definitely hold you accountable for strength and mobility, which were the texts that I sent earlier this morning to reduce injury. But setting you up with a program that helps with injury prevention. But then when things start to go awry, and if you're a runner, it's usually an answer of when, not if. Something will happen. It is the most impactful cardio exercise that we have, right? We can actually help craft things that help you navigate that, right? So if we have someone that has, let's say, a cranky tibia from time to time, I have a lot of info in my workout library that I've written that is like a tempo run, but it's on a bike. So instead of doing a tempo run, you're going to be on a bike moving through the same heart rate zones, but you're not going to be having as much impact. Does your heart know the difference? No. Can you do that 100% of the time and run a perfect tempo? No, but is it a great way to kind of manage the gray zone when you start to feel something funny coming on? Absolutely. And that's really when we talk a lot more to you and monitor, hey, how'd it go? How you feeling? And it really helps you navigate those gray zones and come out of it ultimately not injured or not as injured.
Yeah, being able to help with those pivots is a big deal. Number 5 is goal setting and progress tracking. So coaches can help you set realistic and smart and maybe sometimes scary goals. Sometimes we have to get our athletes to dream bigger, right? Well, you have a story about that?
I had an athlete give me a plan this fall.
Yeah.
And it was a pre-race plan. I was like, what did you just send me?
Yeah.
This is so, not that they were terrible goals, actually. They were terrible goals. Maybe the A should have been the C, right? So if you have A, B, and C goals, I mean, they just sandbagged. And I think I laughed really hard, and they did not expect that. And then I was like, this is garbage. You're going to need to redo this, and then we can re-meet on it. But it also signaled to me that they didn't have a good idea of what they were capable of because they had progressed in such leaps that their brain didn't even go to what is possible. And I will say, redid the A to the super scary and exceeded the A on the performance. So just really kind of proved the point that like literally needed help. I literally thought that they gave me something from 2 years ago. I was like, what is this?
Well, yeah, and that's the coaches can have that big picture view as well as the smaller snapshots to put together those pieces to say, like, you are not the same runner that you were when we started working together 2 years ago, and all your goals need to be bumped up. And a big part, I think, of our job is to get athletes to believe in themselves and to see what they're capable of, and to push them in that direction of reaching their goals. So, we can also be helpful as coaches of when to dial it back a little bit. I think a big part for like our type A athletes is coaches have to impose rest days, right? And get people to do less.
Or go slower.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So we can help with that appropriate goal setting and track your progress and then make those adjustments to your plan. If you are making progress in leaps and bounds, you need to be adjusted so that you can continue to reach your potential.
Number 6, structured workouts. Any good training plan is going to have this, I will say, overall. But a coach is going to be able to provide your balanced mix of speed and endurance and recovery, making sure that you are using something that's scientifically sound to improve your sport. We, of course, need to have structure for our daily, but really trying to figure it out how to put it weekly, monthly, is where a lot of that meta structure comes into play. Like I have athletes, especially when they train for longer things, marathons, ultras, that if we have a heavier weekend and let's say their work week goes crazy, I'll actually do it. I'll flip my training count from a 7-day count to an 8 or a 9-day count. Your body really doesn't know the difference, but in Training Peaks it's laid out as 7, but we're doing math on a rolling 8-day, and then all of a sudden the load makes more sense. So having that structure and that balance is huge. Again, most good plans are going to have it, but making sure that it's custom to you is incredibly important. I have an athlete that he's an incredibly gifted runner. Speed comes very naturally to him, endurance and tempo not so much. So I almost never have him do speed work because we are just building that tempo zone engine whenever possible.
Yeah, that specificity even down to like warm up. So I have some athletes who have tight hips, so their dynamic warm up is going to look different than the other athletes who might be at a track session that day. But that's the sort of pinpointing that we want to make sure that all of this is customized for you, even down to the warm ups and cool downs. Now, number 7 is race-specific strategies. So if you are an athlete training for races and events, this is a great way to make sure that your prep and your race strategy for the day is going to be the best for you. The strategy for a 5K is very different than the strategy for a marathon, right?
One would hope.
One would hope.
One would hope those are different parts of your pace card.
Yeah, pacing as well as fueling, hydrating, these are all things that you need to think about. And if you've only ever raced 5Ks and you're going up to half marathons or marathons, you're going to need some guidance with that. So coaches can really help you dial that in. Some of the best meetings that we do is really like that recap or getting like a pre-race meeting or a post-race meeting, right? Getting athletes to tell us what their plan is and then helping them dial that in.
Yep.
And then reviewing that to see what went well, what can we still improve on, and then having that information to build on over the course of your seasons.
I think when we've talked about this, the importance of writing things down and having it somewhere that you can reference, even more so as an athlete than as a coach. I can't tell you, even with windrunners, like they will have a really successful half marathon and we will literally go back to their race report from their prior half marathon to build their next race plan of like, what did your split show? What did we do for nutrition at this temperature? And it's really, really helpful to be able to stack that. And it's so personal. It's so personal. Yeah. Number 8 is mental strength and confidence. So coaches can really help you develop mental toughness. They give you confidence maybe in areas that you didn't know were your fortes, give you strategies to deal with race day nerves. I think there's also just such a beauty in someone else driving the ship, and then you just have to believe in the training that was provided to you because it's custom for you. It helps you stay focused, obviously, whether that's heading into a race or just heading into a recovery run on a Monday. You've said this, that your biggest job as a coach is to get athletes to believe in themselves. I personally love telling athletes what they're good at. Like, not that I'm over flowery, I'm not, but everyone has a really great, like, secret weapon, but they don't always know it.
Yeah.
And once a coach points it out, then you start seeing it in yourself. I have an athlete who, he's a very, very accomplished, nationally ranked athlete, and he has been racing since he was like 16. And I told him, I think once, and it was a hot race, and I was like, you're gonna be okay. Like, you're my athlete that never freaks out. Like, you have this like mental ability to just troubleshoot and stay in this crazy hard zone and not freak out and find a way through. I'm not saying it's always perfectly executed, but you don't mentally unravel. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago, and he has repeated that back to me. I can't even tell you how many times. It was really hot, Robyn, or like there was someone right on my tail, but I thought, I'm Robyn's athlete that doesn't freak out. And he would tell it to himself to get him to not freak out.
Yeah.
Which was so cool, right?
Yeah.
Also scary that we can tell them things. But you all each really do have like a secret power.
Yep.
And it's so neat to show that, in a mirror and say, like, this is yours.
Yeah, if you want to learn your secret power, get a coach. I think this is something that we talked about last year that I started doing, sending athletes messages before a race with, you're the type of athlete who... Right? So, like, it's great for them to hear that. It's also great for us as coaches to think about the unique traits of our athletes, because it does influence the way that we coach, right? So if you have an athlete who never freaks out, you can throw some tough things at them, right? Yep. You have an athlete who is always good in heat. You know that they're going to be, their race plan could look different in a hot race. So I love this. I think that the mental strength and self-confidence for athletes is really what sets people apart. Like, if we had to choose just one of these, I would say that this is the one of these 10 that is worth it more than anything, because again, like, you can get plans online, you could find free stuff on the internet, whatever. It's not all that's good, as a side note, but you can't really find the mental strength and the confidence and like the visualization practice and the centering that athletes need to succeed in those plans.
I think it always goes back to someone else driving the ship too. It's like, I'm driving the ship for you as an athlete, and I'm pointing out where we're going and the landmarks and the fact that, like, ooh, you wanted to go there. Good eyesight. You can see that, right? There's so much relief and power in just Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, I love this. So actually, if you've made it this far, I want any athlete who's watched this to just call me captain next time you see me. This will be the test to see. just when you come into class, you come into Edge, like not Coach Chris, just say, hey, captain. And
so I'm
driving the ship.
I have a question for you. You might cut this part. When you've been working with a coach, has a coach ever told you that you're the type of athlete who, and what was the answer?
Yeah, I don't remember that part. So I'm sure that we had some conversation. Maybe it wasn't phrased in that way, but I had a coach tell me the phrasing of this. It's time to put your big boy pants on.
Okay.
And
that's some good self-talk.
Yeah, there was more to that that conversation, but essentially that is like the one line that I remember in a couple of races when it got really, really hard that I kind of laughed to myself because I thought it was really dumb. I did not like that framing.
but it stuck.
It stuck with me, and I thought, all right, like this is the part of the race.
Again, that coach probably does not even remember saying that, but it stuck.
It stuck, yeah, which is scary, right?
It's scary as a coach. It's terrifying. You're like, I said that?
He said it off the cuff, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, I see you.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
Yeah, I think like our first coach, again, that same like first pivot using a coach, I remember having my coach tell me that I could do that. I was kind of like a soldier. Like if you put something, I got it done. Yeah. And I didn't question it. Which is a joke, I know, because I pushed back in your strength classes, but that's funny. But if you put 4x1 mile at 5K,
yeah,
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh, maybe I am that way. I just like seeing it go green. And I'm not like such a psycho about making it perfect, but yeah, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to try. And he was always like, you're a soldier.
Yeah. And that changes the way that you approach things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 9 is efficiency and time management. This, again, is the value of having a coach, of being able to design effective and efficient workouts that fit in your time constraints, but then also, plan your weeks so that you are not overloaded with training and that you're making the most of every session. A lot of times self-coached athletes end up with a lot of junk miles. Yep. or junk sessions, or sessions that they go too fast in when they should have been going easy. And your coach will design effort levels in these training sessions to keep your schedule balanced. I think this is really important as you start to go up in distance, because if you're doing a marathon training plan and have a lot of junk in it, or don't have effective and efficient workouts, you're not going to reach your potential. Same thing with triathlon. Balancing 3 sports plus strength plus transitions, that is a lot to manage, and so coaches can really help you figure out where to focus your time and energy and how best to do that.
I had an athlete that was training for 100. This was many years ago, and he just was not able to do the work. I mean, he ended up moving to the suburbs, and he was traveling at just way more for work. And I was like, come to Jesus moment. Like, you're either going to do it and we're going to toe the line, or you're not, and I'm not going to send you to that line. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, I gave him 24 hours. We came back to it, and we figured out a way to have him run from the suburbs to work and back and get his miles in. And it was awesome. Yeah. It was like the most amazing use of efficiency, because he just had all these like dead time on either in the car or on a train, and now it was being used for something. And it was really, really cool to see. And he slayed it.
Yeah, and I believe that, because you are the queen of efficiency.
I love a run canoe.
If you can just get one shower, that's that's the idea.
Save a shower. He did not save showers.
Which is good for his coworkers, I'm sure.
All right, number 10, and then we have a bonus too, so don't you worry, is support and guidance through setbacks. We all know that when we stack bricks, especially when we're talking about a new sport or an endurance effort, you're going to have setbacks to your progress. Either you miss training because of real life, or injury creeps up, or just things happen. A coach really helps you navigate those challenges, and we adjust your plan, which people also don't always know this. We create these plans, but they are flexible. Like, we're able to talk to you not every single day. I like you guys, but not that much. But like when needed, like to adjust and pivot things, we can of course provide that emotional support, letting you know, hey, there will be other races, right? If you can't make the one work that you were looking for, let's have our eye on a different plan, and just help you staying on track. Not always the exact track, but a track.
Yeah. Coaches can force you to be a little more flexible with your tracks. I would say a bonus to this one would be support and guidance also through accomplishments and achievements that sometimes coaches, we have to help identify the setbacks and pivot from there, but also have to help our athletes celebrate their achievements and accomplishments, and then also maybe pivot on those goals like we talked about earlier. So those are our 10 tips, but we also have a bonus here, which is long-term development. So these are things in the short term, these first 10, but in the course of your life as an athlete, coaches can really help provide long-term development because we know how to stack seasons on seasons. Our goal is we want you running when you're 80. We want you working out when you are a grandparent. We want you to be able to have a healthy, happy, successful life and continue to play sports as long as you want to do that. So coaches provide both short-term and long-term development plans, and it can really help you maximize your growth over the years.
And, I say this over and over, but not necessarily on this podcast, but to my athletes and to our fellow coaches, is that the coach-athlete relationship really is such a privileged relationship. Like, you all trust us with your dreams. These are the things that you do because you love. You paid to do them. It's like, it is such a privileged space for us to exist in, and we love that you all trust us with that, and just thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We love having you just move through life and ultimately be able to do it for longer, because you're you.
Great.
All right, if you listen to this and you're like, maybe I do need a coach, how you can get a hold of me? You can email me at robyn@edgeathletelounge.com. We can have a discussion about any coaching stuff that you're thinking about. You can DM on Instagram, @me. We have a really short coaching form intake that just asks about your kind of preferred styles and who you match with. But, just noodle it if any of these resonated with you. Always happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, if you need a coach, go to Coach Robyn. If you need a captain, I'm your guy.
Captain Chris! Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Ment. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.